Hey everyone, so new patch means new picks we can check out from Korea. We've got a bunch that are kind of like rising stars in 8.18, and a lot of these are going to be pretty fun to give a whirl, like pretty fun builds or new picks. We're just going to jump straight into them. I'm sure somebody is going to leave a comment with all of them, so you can read that if you want to. But the first one is kind of like a slow vel'koz build, right? It's something that we saw Bjergsen whip out in the LCS, but it's actually a thing in Korea, and we've seen it in the Korean Pro Leagues as well. I don't know what else to call the build apart from like a slow build, I guess. It's just all about slowing people, but it works really well together. Like every part of it works. So item-wise, there are two different items that make this work. GLP and Twin Shadows. Both are going to be slowing from their actives, right? But they actually provide like a good amount of damage anyway. Now that only works because we're going to take a Glacial Augment as a keystone, right? They'll shoot out a ray on the floor through them, freezing the ground for 5 seconds, and that slows everybody by 60%. So not only do your Twin Shadows and your GLP slow, but then the Glacial Augment fires a ray that slows the entire team basically. And you can proc that twice in a fight, right? Like 10 seconds where they can barely move, and they can barely dodge all of your skill shots and your damage. You're also going to be taking Cheap Shot, which is a true damage to slow targets and domination, and Ingenious Hunter, which is the active item cooldown reduction to be able to have them up more often, which is the synergy part there. You actually still have like good damage. They have decent AP on the items. It's not as high as like Luden's Echo or anything like that, but it's more reliable because you can actually hit the slow targets. You're not going to be missing as much. On top of that, you then have the massive utility part in a team fight that you wouldn't normally have where you slow everybody, right? It's kind of like Sejuani ultimate, but like in a line, I guess. It pretty much guarantees full damage on your ultimate though, unless they have a flash, because there's no way they can run out of it. It looks proper weird, right? And you're probably going to get flamed when you play it, even though it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, actually. You just have to remember that your straight up damage will be a tiny bit lower, your poke will be lower, but you're kiting like a god. Before you get your GLP and your Twin Shadows, by the way, you can just auto attack actually into the combo for the slow as well. It makes hitting your W, your E much easier, and that is going to proc the true damage easier, so even that can help. Now, Urgot, you've probably seen pick or ban in literally every single pro game recently, and this, I think, started in Korea for a few reasons. Thank you to my friend Treats, by the way, for explaining this one with me as well. I'm sure you've probably seen him like Somp E Masters recently if you've been watching that, but he has now become like the most popular top laner in Korea by a mile, mostly because he shouldn't ever lose the lane phase. This is one part of it. It's very difficult to trade against him. He's also very tanky. He does a lot of damage. You can't really gank him either. I mean, you can try, but you're probably not going to kill him, so there's not much to actually do. So he's a lane bully, right? Through and through, high damage, tanky. That's a very good start. But then in mid to late game, he has his execution for team fights. As weird as it sounds, it does way more damage than you probably think. It can do up to 300 damage and then 50% of any AD you have to start with. So that is already a good chunk. But then it can also execute for 25% of their health. Now, what most people forget is that you use it to start with for the damage, then you can reactivate it within 4 seconds to execute, or it does it automatically. So versus a tank, right? This is how they're using it right now. If they have 4,000 health, that is a 1,000 damage execute on top of the rest of it, because that is 25% of his health. It's effectively true damage as well. It's not based on armor or magic resist or anything like that, just the health percentage dropping below 25%. And that is really why it's now pick or ban. It's like having a Cho'Gath ultimate, but on a person who does more damage. Hopefully that kind of explains it, why it can be just so good, I guess. And Unseal Spellbook, by the way, as your keystone is because you can take TP for the lane phase to get back and stuff, but then you can swap it to Ignite or Exhaust and get kills in the lane phase and feed yourself and get fed. Also, before team fights, you can then TP into fights, but you could also swap that for a cleanse or a ghost or something to just make your team fighting a little bit better and easier to get into fights. I want to try something a little bit different with this one. I want to talk about probably the best solo queue bot lane in the game. Leona and Miss Fortune are both very strong champions in their own right. Anyway, right now, Leona had buffs to her W, making her have almost 100% uptime on it once you maxed it out. It's just insane and she never wants to die. Miss Fortune has a stupid amount of damage, which is burst damage as well, and can be very high range, something that other AD carriers just really struggle against. If you put those two together, then you have one of the best kill lanes in the entire game. Leona can hold them in place for the full Miss Fortune ultimate duration, which is a lot of damage. It's actually not just that though. Leona's passive is insane damage if you can proc it every single time, but it's almost impossible to do that because she'll apply it with her E, then instantly her Q, then her W will pop off, so you can't really auto attack quick enough in between, if that makes sense. Miss Fortune though can just put her E down on the target and it will proc all of them pretty much instantly, so it's way more damage without having to actually do anything. It's kind of like how Brand's burn works. It's not a new combo or anything at all. Miss Fortune Leona is an old school lane, but it's not been around for ages, and now we're seeing it stomp in Korea. Both of these are top of the roll anyway, and I think that's partly because together it seems like they have close to a 60% win rate, which is absolutely insane. Just by putting two champions together, it makes them both even stronger, but they're already good. If we move into the mid lane a little bit, Karthus might seem pretty weird, but he's one of the more underrated mid laners right now, and especially at lower ranks as well. So if you're below gold or just like gold and below, you definitely want to try this. Presence of Mind is actually pretty insane on him. It's a 20% mana back and 10% ultimate cooldown refund whenever you're part of a kill. So if you kill like 4 people, say your ultimate at the start, right? Kill 4 people, that's actually a lot of your ultimate cooldown already back. That's even better at lower ranks as well, where games are more chaos, right? You tend to get more kills at lower ranks. That's just how it kind of works. So getting more kills, being a part of them, just means you can have more ults. You also have constant poke, and if the enemy is bad at dodging, you're going to do a lot of damage. You have really good farming because it's pretty easy with your Q, and you're going to be able to get a lead, hopefully, and if you do, then it's brutal to play against. We've kind of moved away from Predator to Aerie now, by the way. You can just constantly use it, especially in the middle of everybody. Technically, it has no cooldown, actually, so you can just kind of bounce it between them and you over and over. Kassadin is kind of the worst matchup ever, so don't pick him into that, like, ban Kassadin if you want to play Karthus, or just wait for the enemy to pick their mid laner. Everything else is fine, though. He actually does really well. People don't expect how much damage he can do, even early into the game. Everybody thinks of Karthus as a late game champion. Yes, he's really good late. He scales really well, but he can actually do a lot early. When I saw Hecarim spike up this patch, I really wished before I clicked it, I was like, so bad. Tell me this is running Dark Harvest on Hecarim, and that is why it's so good in career again. It's actually not. It's got the best win rate, but it isn't used that much. Sadly, it is still Predator. But at least you can now throw a Ghost Spade into the mix, and it's actually the 3rd most popular item on Hecarim after Trinity Force and Deadman's. So for this patch, he's actually seen a big rise in win rate, and it seems like he just demolishes a lot of carry junglers, especially lower health ones that he can just charge down and burst. Jungle honestly hasn't changed very much, by the way. This is the only jungler in the video. It's still a ton of Graves, Kayn, Xin Zhao, the usual fight me kind of pick. Hecarim, though, is pretty even versus most of those, which is really good, and if he gets rolling, then he can charge around, and it's just very difficult to do anything around the map. He's very quick, and counter ganking is really easy. With the game slowing down just a little bit, though, like, he should get a few items and be able to run through people, and especially if you go for a bit more damage and not just full tank. Like, I don't think full tank is actually that good, but when you go damage and some arm penetration like Ghost Spade, you can actually carry the game. Another carry that I'm going to talk about is actually Illaoi. It's kind of like Urgot a little bit, right? I'm using the new Corrupting and Time Orb Tonic combo. I didn't really talk about it with Urgot, but if you aren't sure what it does, Corrupting heals you, but it obviously gives you a bit more damage when you're trading, right? And then Time Orb Tonic actually makes that last 20% longer. So that really gives you better trading in the lane, a bit more sustain as well, but she's already a brutal lane champion, the same as Urgot. There aren't that many that can really duel her properly at all. So you should be controlling the lane phase a little bit, like coming out on top, and then at 6, you're going to have this massive ultimate, right? It heals for a ton, it does a stupid amount of damage, and it can be seriously dangerous. Even if you put it behind, though, with a few items like mid-game, that ultimate will hurt, and it's going to turn everything on its head. So even if you camper, even if you get behind, like, it's not going to be that bad. I think Illaoi is probably one of the most underrated top laners right now, especially in terms of like lane bully. Her laning and early team fighting is just so good. Plus, she is decent versus a lot of other lane bullies. So like Darius, Urgot, and Irelia, that's some of the best top laners right now. They're really popular and they're always played, so she can go toe to toe. So let's move into the bot lane for the last little bit. So Twitch is becoming way more popular now. He's like a monster late game champion, like unreal level. Some of this is because the game has slowed down a bit. It's not as early focused, so like winning lane isn't going to be as important now, which is good. It's harder to snowball and end with a lead as well, I guess. So even if you're against a very strong lane and you lose it, you won't get too far behind. Once you have like maybe 2 items, you're going to start to tear it up though, and it just gets better and better as the game goes on. A good Twitch with a half decent support can easily win the lane phase though if you're aggressive. Trading isn't even that bad, especially with pressy attack and the poison stacking kind of working together. This pick isn't for everybody because like Lucian Misfortune, they will bully you so hard at the start of the game and there's not much you can do. Like sometimes you have to play defensively, but once you just outscale and if you get a few ganks as well, then you get ahead and they're screwed. There is a big difference as well between an average Twitch and a good one, I think. An average one will sit back, they'll wait for the fight and just play backline, and it works, it is fine, but a good one will find people out of position, they'll roam, they'll use the stealth, and they'll create picks, right? Almost like an Evelyn. That is going to get you way more gold, you'll get closer to full build sooner, and you feed yourself kills rather than waiting for your team to do something, and I think that's where he becomes a top tier AD. So last up is brand support, and this is really for gold and below. He's kind of fallen off a little bit at higher ranks, so we haven't talked about him as much recently. I was looking at lower ranks though for this video, and brand is still like top tier, like top of the roll. I find it really hard playing against him though. He does way more damage than me, he has higher range, and if you get close, he's going to stun, he'll get his passive off, and you're probably going to be dead. Smashing lane with him just isn't that hard, right? But once you get out of lane phase, it does get a little bit more difficult. you're kind of easier to shut down and it's harder to stun people. If you're fed though, and at lower ranks, you're probably going to fight more normally, so there's more chance to get that. You're going to get more items. You're going to become a second mid laner, to be honest. I think having more kill potential as well basically takes away the problem of having like a bad AD almost. Like you're the AD now, right? You're the damage, you're the carry. You should actually beat most melee matchups as well. Like imagine a Thresh, right? You're going to hide behind minions so you can't get hooked, and when he walks up, you're going to EQ him to stun him, W to apply your passive, ignite, and he's probably dead. Unless you get engaged on and you walk too close or something, there isn't really much they can do at all. And if your AD gets caught, it's not that bad. You can probably kill one of them anyway. The only thing is he is skill shot based. His ultimate is a bit weird to get used to and to use properly, so he might take a few games to warm up to. But if you want to go for like a pure carry as a support, then Brand seems to still be a really good pick for it. So there you go, a bunch of new picks that you can try, a few new builds as well, and hopefully you understand a little bit more about like why they actually work. Hopefully it gave you something to try out though in your games. Let me know if you do and how you get on. But thank you for watching, and for now I'll leave you with Throwboss.